Welcome back. While Karnataka boasts of sending the highest number of people abroad, guess how many NRIs from the state are registered as voters for the upcoming May 12 assembly polls? Well, you'll be shocked to know that there are only 6 registered NRI voters, amongst which only one is a woman. Citing the reasons for low enrollment, the Joint Chief Electoral Officer K.N. Ramesh said that NRIs have to fill Form 6A, while most of them enroll themselves as general voters.
Basically, there are 3 categories of service electors. There are armed forces are one category. There is armed forces, all the defense army people. Second category is police forces working outside the state. State police forces working outside the state of Karnataka. Their second category. Third category, of course, Government of India employees working in outside government India on some official duties. Those people. Yeah, basically now it is purely online system. Is there ETPBS, electronic transmitting postal ballot system has been put in place. So what happens when a service person is registered online, on the press of a button, when the list of contesting candidates is finalized, RO will on a press of a button from the returning officer, the respective army officers or record officer, it can be printed. It can be printed and then given to the respective soldiers or whatever service person for casting their vote. Once it is cast, it will come back to us through the postal department. So basically, after the list of contesting candidates is finalized, within 72 hours, it will go to the respective record officers.
So counting will be done through the postal ballot.
Postal ballot only. 3 categories.
Well, there are more than 4.96 crore voters in the state. The men constitute for more than 2.51 crore voters and women to 2.44 crore voters. Let's go across to my colleague Michael, who joins us live from the newsroom with more details on this. Well, Michael, there are definitely several firsts in the upcoming assembly polls. It's been dubbed a watershed moment for the elections in India itself. Several firsts to its credit. But more interestingly, on one hand, while Bengaluru is known as the IT hub, while Karnataka is known for its development, a very dismal show, and as far as the numbers are concerned, very dismal show by the NRIs in the upcoming polls.
Yes, Pratibha, most certainly. Now, the question that we're asking is whether they're disinterested or unaware. Just 6 out of the many NRI voters outside the country. It's a very poor statistic, and really makes one feel very disappointed. But the question really is, why is there no intent to get to know as to what needs to be done to register? And why is there so much of disinterest? Just because you're outside the country doesn't mean that you're not still a citizen of the country. And you have, in fact, you have a responsibility to ensure that the right people come to power. Because more often than not, it happens that people either leave, or people who are outside the country, there's a lot of criticism directed to what's happening in the cities of, in Indian cities. There's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of allegations, there's a lot of the entire system is talked about and criticized and torn apart, basically really taken apart in conversations. So if that is the case, why not make an effort to ensure that there is change? And how can you bring about change? It's by taking the first step, by registering as a voter, by ensuring that you vote the right persons in power. If you've actually exercised your vote, then you have every right to say that what's happening in the country is not right, the systems are not right, politicians are corrupt. But usually, the number of people outside the country casting aspersions, alleging that the system is just not right in the country, have done so without actually casting their ballot. So that is a very crucial thing. That's what they have to realize. If you want to make a change, if you want to improve, you want systems to change within the country, you want things to look better, then you have to exercise your franchise. It's not enough to just speak about how things are bad or going from bad to worse. So it's important now that NRI voters take a look at the statistic. It's a really shocking fact. It's important that they take a look at the statistic and really make an effort to at least register themselves as voters. And of course, there are numerous numerous systems, there are numerous procedures to follow. Probably thus far, there has been a lot of disappointment with the people in power. but then you cannot make a change without actually persisting. That is what is lacking. You cannot just give up after one effort or one try and then say, no, it's just not working. You need to persist, and that's what is probably lacking with with the NRIs, Pratibha, at the moment. So they need to make an effort. You just cannot sit back and say the system doesn't work. There are too many hurdles, there are too many challenges. You have to make an effort. And I'm sure there is a procedure to follow. And if that procedure is followed, maybe the NRI voters will have a better chance of probably even getting themselves registered. But they need to take the first step. They need to show an intent. They need to show will. More often than not, like I said, there's it's very lackadaisical. Their approach is very lackadaisical. And without even making an effort, without even trying to find out what is required, they give up. So that's not the right approach, and that's the reason for these dismal numbers, Pratibha.
Absolutely, a very dismal number. And also, like you mentioned, Michael, why complain about the state of affairs here if you're not casting your vote at all? But also, to play the devil's advocate here, Michael, from the NRI's point of view, the argument that's often given is that it becomes too expensive or non-feasible for them to come to India to cast their vote, which is why the cabinet also recently had decided to clear proxy voting for NRIs, that is, give the right for any other member of the state to cast the votes for the NRIs, because it becomes difficult for the NRIs also to come here and cast their vote. So until that becomes a reality, I'm sure the NRIs also have several excuses up their sleeves.
Yeah, excuse is the right word, Pratibha, because it's not a reason, it's just an excuse. So if there is an intent, if there is a will to actually cast your vote, then you will find a way. That's an old cliche, and everybody knows how true that is. So you need to show an intent, you need to show will, and proxy voting is allowed anyway. So why don't you make use of that? Why don't you capitalize on that? So that's something which they have lost out on. Now, just because they're outside the country doesn't mean. Now, many people still feel attached to the country, but you shouldn't disassociate from what is happening in the country, and then talk about, like you said, talk about the state of affairs. So you need to be involved. You're still an Indian citizen. Just because you work outside the country, or for whatever reason you're outside the country, doesn't mean that you're not an Indian citizen. And as an Indian citizen, it is your duty to ensure that the right people come to power. You may not be, there are certain ways in which you are availing benefits from the country. Still, you are a citizen of the country. That's the basic, that's what is a given. So you need to ensure that the right people come to power. And how can you do it? You need to show an intent and show, at least register your votes and try. There are procedures, there are systems which you can use to ensure that your vote is cast. And so that's what they need to do, Pratibha. Instead of just giving up and saying, no, the system doesn't work, it's too much of a challenge, it's an uphill task. You cannot give such excuses.
Absolutely, no excuses. It's time to cast your vote. Many thanks, Michael, for joining us with those details. And moving on to some big news now, the BJP's new